Hello, everyone. It is the next interview for the fan Q&As, and I'm here with Joel, who is a Morecambe fan. So we're going to be chatting all things Morecambe today. Walsall fans don't look at Morecambe with a lot of pride with our home result against you in January. So the less we can talk about that, the better. But Joel, thanks for coming on. Thanks for taking part.
No problem. Pleasure to be here.
And so we'll crack on with how you felt last season went for the club. Morecambe, I think a lot of fans look at being, in the nicest way possible, quite a small club for the league that you're in, but a club that is a kind of firm League Two club. So how did you feel last season went?
Yeah, I mean, last season was an interesting one because obviously it was the season that Jim Bentley left. It was probably the right time for him to leave. I think to an extent, all managers kind of have a bit of an expiry date with a club. I think we kind of hit that with Jim Bentley. I think we were just it felt like we were sleepwalking to an eventual relegation, and especially after losing against Stevenage, which was his last game, and that put us bottom of the league. So I think we didn't start very well at all to the season, and then it was time for him to go. I think he is a good manager, and he's got good managerial abilities. I think to an extent he just needed to get to another club, and we needed to move on to a different manager. But yeah, so Derek Adams came in. I think he slowly turned things around throughout the course of the season. I think we felt a lot. I felt watching us, we looked a lot more solid and a lot more competitive as a side. I mean, we didn't reap in loads of wins immediately or anything like that, but we just generally started to look better formed as a side. We got some good January signings in with Timani Digoraga.
When did couple of things. One, how long was Jim Bentley there for? Because it was quite a while, wasn't it?
Yeah, he'd been in since 2012, summer of 2012, wow. I think, was when he was appointed. So he was the longest serving manager in League Two until in the Football League, until he left the Fylde in October or November, I think it was.
Yeah, and then when did Derek Adams come in? Because to be quite honest, last season is now turning into more of a blur.
Yeah, I know. It's all a bit of a blur now. I think he came in, so we had a couple of games under with Barry Roach and Kevin Ellison taking caretaker charge. We actually got a good win against Leyton Orient, actually. And then Derek Adams came in November, took over. I think we just felt he was a lot more solid when he took over, and especially when he got some more of his own kind of players in January. And Adam Phillips and Ryan Cooney from Burnley as well, they were important. And we just looked a lot more competitive. So we're quite looking forward to how we can push on under his
name, but is it Diaruga?
Digoraga. Tumani Digoraga, great name.
You knew who I was on about. We've just signed Emmanuel Osadibe, which I'm really looking forward to everyone trying to pronounce his name. But he's Irish, so apparently when he introduces himself, he calls himself Paddy. And you're like, that's a nickname that we need to stick with. We need to stick with Paddy rather than try and chant Osadibe.
Yeah, I remember when Padraig Amond came to the club, and there was the how do you pronounce Padraig?
But Dia is a good player for you. It's like he seemed like when the signing was made, I think a lot of League Two clubs went, oh, wow, okay, he's gone to Morecambe. That's a bit of a not a coup, but it's a signing that shows, right, we're gonna really give this a go, and he's definitely a signing that will be a good player for a couple of seasons for you.
Yeah, it was one of those we're not kind of messing about signing. Obviously, he's obviously done it in the Championship, a good bit with Brentford. He was at Leeds. I think he lives up north, and that's why he wanted to join the Northern club, because he was at Swindon before.
Do you know what? Any reason that you can have to sign players that have got that experience, you do it.
I know. Well, I mean, this summer we've got Ben Pringle, who's another bit of Ben Pringle signed for Morecambe. He's that kind of signing, because obviously he's done it in the Championship a bit with Rotherham.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if he's still based near Preston or something like that. That might have played a factor. But yeah, there's a couple of big, decent names in there, and they've still got a good bit of quality. Diagaraga's got a love. He's great with the ball. He helps kind of control the pace of the ball and knock it around really nicely for this level. He's a really good player.
Yeah. So, did you feel that you were a better attacking or defensive unit under Derek Adams, or was it just a sort of general the team was starting to play with more of a system? Like what did change? Because I mean, although you didn't looking at the table, it wasn't like wow, Morecambe went on a real charge, but improvements were being made, and you did sort of drag yourself out of that relegation sort of scrap.
Yeah, we kind of crept further and further away from Stevenage, really. I mean, we ended up 10 points cleared before the lockdown. But I think, yeah, it's weird because it's hard to pinpoint an exact area of the team that kind of really transformed. But it just felt very kind of more like you kind of mentioned, a kind of a systemic kind of thing. Like, I felt there was a little bit of a mentality shift. We tightened up a bit. We looked a bit more solid defensively. We were kind of more compact, and there was a bit more of a plan. I think what Adams is, I've kind of noticed what he kind of has us doing is we often sit off the opposition's defence when they knock it around, and then spring on teams when they kind of hit the midfield area. And I think that was kind of I remember watching this against Crewe in one of the last games before lockdown. We drew 1-1, which is obviously a really good result against Crewe.
Yeah.
But, we were really good at we kind of let them knock it around at the back a bit, and that's what they're going to do because they were great at that. And then just kind of hit him in midfield a bit more. We looked really competent handling them. But yeah, I think we just looked, and then we kind of just looked a bit more cutting in attack, especially when Carlos Mendes Gomez came into the side. I think that's probably player wise, and obviously we signed like the likes of Diagaraga, and Phillips has done a great job since he's come in from loan from Burnley. But Carlos Mendes Gomez, he's a phenomenal player. He's super talented, great with the ball at his feet, and he just kind of gives an extra bit of spark to the attack. And I think just generally we kind of systemically just kind of slowly raised our performance levels, which obviously told on the table over time.
Yeah. I mean, how do you look back at last season as we needed to make changes need to be made. We made them when we were a bit of a low point, but now sort of everything's been changed and set up ready to go, and you've stayed in League Two. Would you say that it was in a weird way, a successful season, or was it just a season of change that hasn't seen you lose pace? Like I think sort of analyze it from last season.
No, that's a good way to put it. To be honest, it kind of has. I mean, I think like it was definitely a season of transition. Obviously, Adams taking over. I think kind of one of the things that really told for Bentley in that his time was kind of up at the club. We just had this kind of daft, inflated squad with far too many players, and players who were just never going to, like young players who were probably never going to get a game with us. It was just, well, why have we got them on the books, And then he kind of signed a couple of players he'd signed previously a few years ago, like Sean Miller and Alessandro. And Alessandro did an all right job. But it just kind of felt like he was running out of ideas. So we did need a bit of a refresh. And the team was really down in the dumps, I think, after that Stevenage defeat. And I think Adams, obviously, he wants to win every game he can. He's a competitive manager. But I think the kind of remit for him last season was get us through this season, guide us through, keep us up, and then let's look at kind of shaping the squad more to your liking for this season and push on.
Thing is, though, it did look as though the board, like with the players that you bought in January, the board definitely kind of backed him early to make those changes with a larger squad. Did you see many leave in January as well, or?
Yeah, we didn't. I can't. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head now. I think we did see a couple go in January. I think Adam Buxton went out on loan to York. I think a couple of players were kind of. I think we had a couple of youth players who kind of went out on loan. I think we had a young centre back who just terminated his contract and stuff, mutually terminated, obviously. But I think. I mean, It's always the debate among fans. How much has the manager been back this window? How much funds has he managed to free up through a bit of clever negotiating? Ultimately, we'll never know. It does feel like he did get backed a little bit to kind of work the squad up a bit. Obviously, Alessandro left and went to Carlisle. I think actually Adams might have wanted to keep him, but yeah, he went to Carlisle and obviously frees up a decent 6 months' wage. So yeah, I think he did probably. I kind of feel like he might have gotten a little bit of back in just to kind of get a few players in, get us over the line. And obviously, the players he got in are still with us for this season, like Diego Raga, Jordan Slew, and we've got Phillips and Cooney back on loan from Burnley. So obviously, we've built up a good relationship with Burnley there, which is important because if we take a few loan players on their books, that helps everybody.
I think it's definitely going to more especially this season and probably next season. I feel that we're going to see like more links between clubs, especially when like they are a bit more kind of out the way. I think you bigger clubs and you smaller clubs aren't going to have the pull to kind of go to a team up north. Like for us, we've got a link with Bristol City because Darryl Clark has got a lot of Bristol connections, but we're not going to be looking at sort of teams way up in the, like we're not going to be going to like Newcastle and trying to get a player on loan from there because the journey is such a big amount that I don't think clubs are going to be able to put young players up. I know that's a really basic thing, but if you need a left back and you've got your eye on someone that's sort of 4 hours drive away, or you've got a club that's an hour's drive away, you're going to look, I think the clubs are going to start looking more localised loans, potentially. I don't know. Chatting out my backside, but I don't know. I think it's, I'm not sure. I think that could be something though.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I remember going to, it was a football writers talk, one of the ones in Manchester, which was really good. And I think there was one with Andy Holt there, because Mike Calvin, the author Mike Calvin, did State of Play and stuff like that.
Yes.
That's got obviously an interview with Andy Holt, and he had like Michael Appleton down as well from that book, and Drew brought him. But Andy Holt was saying some really interesting things like that, and he was talking about going into kind of negotiations with like Premier League clubs for taking on a loan player, and they say, "Oh yeah, pay 50% of his like massive wages," and it's like, well, no, we can't do that. So like, I think there has to be. I think with the difficult with the loan market, there's got to be a lot of goodwill between clubs to really pull it off for the Premier League club to not be kind of quite mean over the money, and obviously in return, like. And the whole kind of, and then you want to give him playing time, but at the same time, you can't always guarantee it just because if he doesn't perform, you shouldn't get in the side, But there's a lot to think about. But yeah, I think if it's local, it makes things easier, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I made a prediction a few weeks back, and it's not come to fruition. Most of mine don't. So Aston Villa Women's is now using our ground as their stadium for the season, and I kind of, when that news was announced, sort of made a bit of a prediction that I was like, we might see a Villa player come in on loan, like as part of the deal. We haven't seen anyone, but the market's still open. So if any of the Walsall hierarchy want to help me out and prove me right, that it's things like that you do look and you go, could that be linked to this? Like we saw a 15, 16-year-old striker move to Southampton's academy from our academy, which, however sad you are because you want your youth prospects coming through, you go, well, there's obviously going to be future play if he does play for the first team, there's going to be fees, there's going to be incentives further on, but also for the lad, you go, great, because Southampton's academy is very good. But then we signed a keeper that we had on loan from them last season where they agreed to mutually terminate his contract, so there's no fee. And I think it's things like that you don't know what deals are going on, but the fact that this player went and then a few weeks later we've signed this keeper where Southampton have been quite generous and gone, effectively you can have him.
Mm.
I think.
Yeah. I think we because we sold Leif Davis to Leeds.
Yeah.
I think we've got a load of add-ons, so let's hope he makes a Premier League appearance this season coming, because I think we might get a fair bit of whack if we get if he plays. And I think Bielsa's apparently likes him, but we got like Sam Dolby on loan from them later in the window. But I think we lost a little bit of goodwill because we didn't play him. But then he went and signed for Watford, which is really odd. We're like not really sure what happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, we didn't really play him, and yeah, he just. I think we might have lost a bit of goodwill because I felt like he was a bit of a panic signing on the Bentley. To be honest, I think he just was panic signing a few strikers, and fortunately, Aaron Collins worked out that season, but Dolby didn't.
Yeah, no, we are the kings of sell-ons that don't actually happen. We've it was well documented that we had a 25% sell-on fee for Troy Deeney, and the amount of times that he's been linked with clubs that it's just not come to fruition. And even now, it's like, because we sold him to Watford, and you're like, when he was linked with Arsenal for like, or linked with Leicester for like 40 million, you're like, please go.
I think he's I think he might be on his way out, because I think I saw a quote from him on Twitter the other day saying about how he hit double figures for last season, so he reckons he can still do it in the Prem.
But I think it might be on loan, and you're like, no, just even if you sell him for 4 million, we'll take 1 mil. Like
they're going to hold out. I think they've just got Glenn Murray as well, Watford.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. We'll see. But if he goes, I'll be dropping you a message like, Rico Henry at Brentford, we'd get, I think it was 1 million for him getting promoted into the Premier League.
Oh, blimey.
Yeah, so we were all Brentford fans.
So did he? Yeah, and he was when he got sent off really harshly.
Yeah, and then it got turned over.
Rescinded.
But we've got
ridiculous red card.
It's a shame because we've also got like England call up sell on fee for him, and you think if he's in the Premier League and he gets sold, he's worth more money. If he's in the Premier League, there's only a certain amount of English left backs that you can look to. So
as has been proven by this most recent international squad.
Yeah,
and Ryan Bertrand's name whistling on the wind somewhere, but
yeah, but we'll see. Anyway, we'll look to how Derek Adams' squad is looking, sort of going into the 2021 campaign. You said you've got quite an inflated squad. Have you seen quite a few leave? What's the sort of activity been for yourselves?
There's been a lot of turnover. Obviously, most clubs have had at least 7 or 8 players leave, obviously, because of the whole kind of situation at the moment. And I think we released, might be 9 or 10, and I think we've had another. We released basically a lot of players out. We had a lot of players out of contract, and we released most of them, and then got and offered a few more. But I think Adam Buxton, Andrew Tuck's gone to Bolton, which is mental. Which stunned me a little bit. He's a good player, but he's just very injury prone, and I think there were a few attitude problems. I think. Which culminated in him throwing his bib on the floor after not coming on against Carlisle, which was
brilliant.
Particularly, which is weird, which is funny. But we've had a lot leave. Obviously, Kevin Nelson's gone. He's ended up at Newport now, which is crazy that. And then Barry Roach
is he 41?
41, yeah. I mean, I think we did need to move the squad on a bit, but yeah. And then Barry Roach is retired into a goalkeeping coach, which is lovely because he's been at the club for so many years. Barry Roach, he's an absolute legend. And and who else is? Yeah, so we've had a lot of players leave. But it's kind of he's really started to shape the squad to his own kind of liking now, which is kind of interesting to see. So we've had a lot in. We've had Harry Davis, who made his debut against Grimsby yesterday, who looked really, really good. I was really impressed with him yesterday. Nathaniel Percival who I think he didn't have a great season at Carlisle last season, a lot of people have said, but he looked solid enough yesterday.
Yeah.
Kelvin Miller did a decent job yesterday as well. I think he had a hairy moment for their goal, but looked all right with Stephen Hendry in at left back. So we pretty much revamped the whole back line, to be honest, apart from Sam Lavelle. But it was not. He had a knock yesterday. But yeah, we've got Diego Alves signed an extension, which is great. We've got the two Burnley lads back, Phillips and Cooney, who are both really, really good. Especially
were they on loan all season or just from January?
So they've been on loan since January. Adams brought them in, and then they did a great job. Obviously, Phillips scored 4 and assisted 3 in 11 games, so he did a brilliant job. So he's coming in for. And he scored. So they're both on season-long loans now.
Yeah, I think that's another thing we're going to see. Players who maybe were on loan, especially young players that, like you said, they only really got a handful of games because of the season being cut short. That sort of the whole point of them being out on loan is to get game time. So why not send them back to a setup that obviously needs that position?
Yeah, exactly. I think he I think we probably advertised ourselves quite well to Burnley by playing them a lot, and obviously Phillips having success here. Obviously, it probably reflects well on us as well. Playing him and putting faith in him, giving the chance to shine. But he scored yesterday, pretty early on, so he's already got his account open for this season, which is just good to see that kind of confidence boost for him as well. Probably got Ben Pringle, which is quite surprising signing. Which is a pretty. I mean, he came on for the last kind of 5-10 minutes yesterday, and like. I think we made a few subs from our starting lineup, and I think we looked the better team in that last kind of period in yesterday's game, but we were just kind of a little bit disjointed because I think everybody was still kind of getting used to each other because obviously it's been short pre-season. But Pringle came on and he just had like that extra bit of quality. He was getting forward in attacks and just kind of always presenting himself and kind of really looked like he could really pull the strings. He had a bit, especially with a bit more time on the pitch. So he looks like a really promising signing. And we had Liam McAllen on, he actually looked quite good yesterday when he came on. So I think, we've got a good squad. But I think we're all quite happy with how the squad looks. And but we're still looking forward to seeing how we do overall this season. I think there's a lot more optimism than there has been previously.
Yeah, I can pretty much guess your answer from that, but normally I'll kind of ask whoever's on about their thought on the manager. Obviously, by the sounds of it, you're very happy with kind of Derek Adams, and that after the sort of long period of Jim Bentley, that it's the right type of appointment and the type of appointment that can see you beginning to try and push up the league.
Yeah, I think Jim Bentley, when he first came in, he was, he liked to kind of like, he kind of built some quite nice, fun, quite attacking sides at times, and he had this kind of big mantra of, he used to like print out articles about of people tipping us for relegation and get the list of the bookies odds and slap them on the wall in the changing room and get fired. He used to fire people up. I mean, he had this great kind of siege mentality, but that kind of just dissipated into, we're a little old Morecambe, it doesn't matter if we lose, which is a bit. So I think Adams is obviously he's taken Ross County into the Scottish Premiership and obviously nearly took him to Europe and got to the Scottish League Cup final as well. So he's like, and now Ross County for that level, a really small side to get into the Premiership.
So you're expecting him to try and push you into Europe then?
Yeah, take us all the way to Europe, get us in the Europa League. Maybe, if we get a good cup run in the Carabao Cup, get to the final. Bradford did it. I mean, they didn't win the final, but, if they had, it would have been back in Europe for them. But, I think we're just hoping to put. I think because he's obviously got a good track record with another small club like Ross County, so I think he obviously doesn't buy into the whole we're a small club. It doesn't matter if we lose. Obviously, I think he'll feel like he wants us. He thinks we can push on, and I think we can. I think it'd be really interesting to see, especially with the salary cap kind of evening the league out a bit.
Yeah. I'm just getting the odds for the season up. Because it does look like you are favourites for relegation according to Sky Bet.
It was like 200 to 1 to go up as well, wasn't it?
You're
for the title, but
You are 4-1 for relegation, but then again, I'd say that Southend are also 7-1. So who knows what's going on there. I can tell you now that I've already put a bet on. I won't say who or what, but I've just given you the odds. So, what, as favourites for relegation, what do you think the kind of aim is for next season, and where do you think you can realistically finish?
I think the bookies. I have a theory actually that the bookies deliberately make us favourites for relegation because we never get relegated, and everybody thinks, and everybody slaps the money on. Oh, Morecambe will finally get relegated this season, and then we don't, and then everybody loses their season-long accumulators, and the bookies rake it in from us. That's my theory. And there's a bit of wheels within wheels here, but but I think I don't go by what their odds. I think just generally for me, obviously, like we can all dream about a bit of a playoff run, and maybe that'll transpire. But I think aiming for the top half, I think that kind of 12th to 15th kind of mid zone,
Yeah,
just well away from any relegation trouble, is just what I think most fans would be happy with. Just not being in a relegation scrap, looking like a proper competitive League Two side. Because basically, I mean, we just, especially in the last few years, it just kind of felt like we were just kind of fodder for the rest of the league.
yeah.
And we were just kind of waiting for our players to have a bit of a good day and the opposition to have a bad day, and then scrape a 1-0 win and just kind of survive on that. And hopefully, there was another every season. There was a couple of awful sides to go down ahead of us. It kind of felt like we were just treading water and waiting for other people's kind of to go down to keep us up. And
rather than kind of keeping yourselves mid-table, you're sort of like, right, as long as we're not the worst team, that's okay.
Yeah, basically, as long as we're not one of the two worst teams, as long as we're the third worst team and not the not the first or second worst teams, then it's okay. But like, I think now we want to push on up the table. I mean, who knows about the players? I'm not going to. I mean, I'd love a run at something like that. I don't think probably we won't, but I'd love it to happen, obviously. But I think if we could just kind of mid-table, away from any relegation trouble, competing in the league, putting some good performances, I think that'll please the fans. I think we're quite an easygoing bunch, our fans generally. I think things got a bit fractious with Jim Bentley towards the end of his reign, but overall,
it's like you said, though. I think anything really that's. I think even if you, from an outside point of view, I think if you finished, let's say, like 17th, 18th, but were points-wise quite a gap from the relegation zone, I don't think it'd be a bad season. With historically, like you said, you felt like you were sleepwalking towards relegation, and there's been a lot of turnover, and I know by the sounds of it and by the players that you've brought in, it does feel like you've had like a step up in quality of player, but it's gonna take time. Like you said, it's very short pre-season. I know that clubs came back and were training in small groups to begin with, so the whole team gelling, it might take a while. But I think from an outside point of view, if you had a mid, even if it was a lower mid-table finish, where you just weren't involved in any sort of relegation scrap, that must be seen as a big step forward. And then also, from there, you've got players that then go look at Morecambe as, they're a mid-table League Two club to join, rather than, I'd be fighting against relegation. It is, I don't know, I think it would be the first step of building up to a top 10 sort of team.
No, exactly. I think you make a really good point there as well about, not being seen as a kind of, cannon fodder for the rest of the division. I think,
except
and obviously
games against us, then you can be cannon fodder.
I know, yeah. I can't remember we were playing Walsall, but
I looked earlier, and I think we're not playing till like January. We're playing really late in the sort of our first game. However, I'm saying that could just be the way that I typed it in. But let's have a look at the Walsall fixtures.
But I think just be competitive in the league, and I think I think things got a bit fractious with Derek Adams at Plymouth towards the end of his reign. But I think Plymouth will probably expect a bit more because they are, they've got quite a big fan base. I think their owner backs them a bit as well.
Yeah.
But with us, I think like we've had quite a few years of just being quite really treading water in the division and being more competitive in the division. I think initially will satisfy the fans a fair bit. I think we're quite kind. I think most managers will probably, obviously the pays, obviously there are the budget restrictions and stuff, and I can't imagine we're necessarily the most highest paying club in the division and whatnot. But I think we're probably quite an attractive proposition for managers given our track record of not sacking people.
Well, you say about not being the biggest payers, but if you've got a large squad, if you trim the sort of fat off the squad, suddenly you've got extra funds to bring players in. It's about being, I think, with the salary cap and with everything, it's now being smarter with your money. It's not about just chucking money at it. It's about having the balance between obviously like youth prospects coming in, signing some good young players because under 21s don't count towards the salary cap. It is about being smart with it.
Yeah, and I kind of look forward to that being the thing that lead to. I think it'll test managers more, and it'll make them think a bit more. And it'll make. I think actually, I don't know. It'll definitely test clubs a bit more. Clubs who like to throw the money around and stuff, Can really think and there's stuff like I do kind of like with clubs like Portsmouth and Sunderland. I do kind of get it when they say, "Oh, we've got loads of extra money, so we should be able to spend more." But I think they have had some kind of soft cap that was proportional to income, but it just didn't really get followed properly. So I can understand why the EFL did. Yeah. That was what financial fair play that it was there for, but nobody really followed it properly. So but I think at the end of the day, if you've got money left over, invest in a good scouting department, invest in a good analytics team, and invest in good sports science, invest in good youth academy and youth prospects.
Invest in improving the players you've got. It's sort of it seems simple, especially young players. Like if you've got like 3-4 million left over, why not get like a really good academy together that you go, great, we can actually have like 4 top quality youth players that A, don't count towards the salary cap, B, don't really count towards the registration rules for how big the squad can be because they're again under 21, and then you can sell them on, and it's an academy cycle.
Exactly, and you can put money towards scouting. You can get a couple of analytics guys in. You can get some get good sports science stuff. Fix the leaky roof over the away stand. You do something like that. Do some things to enhance the experience of fans. There's loads of things you can still do with your money, and at the end of the day, it's about making clubs sustainable businesses. And I think we've seen from the past few years that is more important than anything, making sure they're sustainable businesses.
I think having a season where it's not decided on which clubs are in turmoil off the pitch throughout all 3 leagues in the EFL would be quite nice.
Well, exactly. We've seen it just staying up because Macclesfield are a mess financially. Barnsley stayed up essentially because Wigan are a mess financially. I mean, it was a great kind of. The whole last day drama was amazing, but at the end of the day, it only happened because Wigan got that, points deduction. Obviously, there's Bury. So, you can't have 3 clubs.
You look at the sort of, you knew 2 of the teams that were getting relegated in League One because
Southend,
were in a complete mess.
Bolton, of course, Bolton, sorry, then
deduction, and you suddenly effectively League One was the same as League Two. There's 1 relegation spot.
Yeah, no, that was it, wasn't it? Because Bury kicked out Southend and Bolton, obviously going down. So and Tranmere were the unfortunate ones to get it in the end. It was obviously more particularly unfortunate how they got it, but it just. And at the end of the day, big clubs. I think also at the end of the day, big clubs the bigger clubs are going to attract better players still generally. Yeah. It's still going to have an edge because at the end of the day, say if you say like Lee, obviously the comparison, we don't want to be operating the same budget. We shouldn't operate in the same budget restrictions as Rochdale and Accrington Stanley. I'm pretty sure Accrington Stanley and Rochdale probably don't really hit that 2.5 million cap anyway.
No,
but also if you're getting offered the same money to go and go to train at Stanley and play, get changed in a porter cabin, or go to Sunderland with the Stadium of Light and then their amazing kind of training ground and 40,000, like 40,000 people every week. What are you going to choose? I'm going to choose Sunderland,
Yeah. Yeah. Although you say that, it was a couple of months ago now, but the Price of Football tweeted salary figures from 2018, and I believe out of the two leagues, Morecambe were the closest to it. And even this was total. So obviously there are under 21s that you would take out of that.
And there's staff on there as well.
Yeah, it's total for sort of like the whole club. But it was. I think Sunderland had to. I think the cap is a tenth of what Sunderland was spending on wages. So good luck, Sunderland.
I know, yeah. Unfortunately for them, obviously, there's the whole thing of the players over the cap are put down as an average now, but that'll save them for a couple of years. But to be honest, they need to get these players off the books. They're dragging money out of the club, and
Yeah.
And you shouldn't. And regardless of the kind of situation of the club, it's not really viable to have players on Premier League, kind of lower Premier League wages in League One. No matter how many fans you're getting in, it's not really viable. It's not really a good idea.
Right, we're gonna look to wrap it up. I'm gonna ask for three things. One, the position that four things. Position that your head says you're going to finish. Position that your heart says you're going to finish. Then a sort of the key player that you feel is going to be like sort of your main key player for the season, and then a sort of a hot prospect that you feel could have a bit of a big season.
Okay, yeah. So my head says probably 12th to 15th would be good. Kind of if we down maybe 12th to 17th. I think that's quite a solid target, and hopefully get into that top half maybe. But my heart obviously says top half, playoff run, blah 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 blah. Obviously, I think every kind of lower half table side says, "Oh, I think we can go to playoff run this season." And that's just you think it now might be the season. Probably won't be for us.
All the fans I've spoken to, the only two that have not said, if we have a good run, we could get the playoffs, has been Reese, who was the Stevenage fan, and Riley, who was the Southend fan. And they went, if we say that, we'll be really happy.
Do you have Adrian on doing Mansfield? Did he not go automatic promotion?
No, right. So me and Joel both know Adrian, who's a Mansfield fan. Off cam, top three, we're going to win the league, HMS, piss the league, everything's stereotypical. As soon as we started recording, I'd take top half, and you're like, no, you're playoffs.
I know, they're not going to. I don't think Mansfield want to be sitting around for too much longer, especially after last season. But I think I'd love a playoff run. It might not happen. I wouldn't be that bothered if it didn't happen. Hopefully, we can get top half. But if we can have that 12th to 15th region, that's solid.
Yeah, building blocks.
Yeah, exactly. Building blocks. I think one to watch in young prospect. I think we've got two players who kind of cross over as both, really. There's Adam Phillips, who's back online from Burnley, who obviously scored 4, got assisted 3 in 11 games. He's an interesting player. He's I think it actually is his favourite player. But you know how Steven Gerrard wasn't really it was definitely an attacking midfielder, but not really a number 10.
Yeah. Everyone saw him as like a defensive attacking midfielder.
Yeah, exactly. It's like he's obviously a central midfielder, and he's not obviously an attacking central midfielder, but he's definitely not a number 10. Yeah. Adam Phillips is that kind of style. He's obviously an attacking midfielder. He doesn't quite feel like a number 10, but he's got a great nose for kind of getting into the box late and kind of following in on attacks and stuff and timing his runs. He's good technically, good eye for a pass. And obviously, the fact that he can, at this, I think he's like 22 now, maybe. Quite a young age, he can translate all of that into goals and assists is really, really promising. So he'll be a big player for us next season. And the other one, I think he's a bit younger. I think he might be about 20 now. Is Carlos Mendes Gomez. So I think I've mentioned earlier he is like he. I think technically he's comfortably our best technical player in the squad, and he's got a lovely kind of almost kind of languid dribbling ability. You know how Jack Grealish kind of like almost lazily kind of steps around people.
Yeah.
Kind of Mendes Gomez does some kind of similar. He just kind of steps around people. He's great with the ball at his feet, and he's got that. He's got a bit of imagination about him. He can kind of unlock a defense with a kind of moment of magic. I think last season it didn't quite translate into loads of goals and assists. He got a couple of goals. He should have had an assist yesterday, but Stockton missed the 1-1. It was a lovely little reverse pass. I mean, Stockton's a great. I like Stockton a lot. He's a great hold-up man, but unfortunately, just didn't come off on that occasion. But he was a lovely reverse pass, Mendes Gomez. But he's a lovely player. He's so much fun to watch. When he scored that goal against Walsall last season.
Yeah, right. Okay, we get it.
What a lovely goal that was.
Yeah. I think I remember it. I'm not quite sure. Oh God, that was such a rough Tuesday night.
It was. I kind of thought, like, obviously for us, it was a great, going such a long way and then getting it 2-0, a very solid scoreline, and getting that win against Walsall. I think in everybody's head they're still kind of a League One club in a way, and having that kind of big kind of relief of the kind of that second goal coming in and going in the 90th minute. It's a big kind of relief, isn't it?
You could have walked off the pitch after 10 minutes and I don't think we'd have scored. It was one of those nights that there was no point. Even when the penalty happened, as soon as we missed the penalty, I went, we're not scoring today. It was one of those games that you just...
I think that was compounded because I think just before we got that second, there was that one that hit the post and literally went back across the goal.
Yeah.
It literally hit the post and went straight along the goal line and back into our keeper's arms. And that kind of happened. I thought, it's not going to go in. It's not going in for Walsall, is it?
Yeah. We seem to have moments like that there's days where you're in the stands and you just like, you look into all the players and you just know that we're not scoring.
I'm pretty sure we had a checker trade JPT, whatever it was called back then, tie, years ago. And we won 2-0. And we had a really bit part side. We were ravaged by injuries. And we had like Alan Goodall at centre back. And we won 2-0. And Walsall were a league club at the time. And we just got battered in the first half. And it just wasn't going in for Walsall. You probably don't remember it. It was probably a bit of an incident.
I can't remember that.
No, probably not. It's a disappointing Johnson's Paint Trophy tie against a League Two club.
Probably a reason that it's not in the memory.
No, nobody wants to remember the checker trade stuff, especially when you lose to an under-21 Premier League side.
Yeah. Although I think this season it's the opportunity for some clubs, especially like ours, that don't pay the biggest amount of money, that don't generate, that if you win a couple of games in the group and go through the group stage, you suddenly have earned the wages for a player for a season.
Yeah, no, that's a good point actually, because it's like 20 grand a win, isn't it?
Yeah.
And 10 grand for a draw. It's like 10 grand for a penalty win and 20 grand for a full. Well, exactly. A couple of wins, and that's somebody in January, easy.
Yeah, which I think you will look at clubs that go, we don't want the extra fixtures, but then if they do win a couple of games, suddenly it's like, oh, this is actually a decent amount of money. But I know it's not vast amounts of money, but I think I read an article last year that when Sunderland got to the final, they'd generated £1 million on the way from it.
Blimey.
Which,
I don't like the competition that much, but you got when the benefits of that kind of monetary reward.
I think it was
actually
the money's for the actual prize money. then they'd also added, obviously they get more fans through the door, but the ticket income, and then as you go round per round, then there's a bit more because they obviously get a small fee for like highlights being shown. But when there's less clubs, you get more money for highlights, and then there's streaming rights because once it gets to the semi-finals, and they totaled it all up, and they hit a big sum of money. But you think, wow, you look at salary cap of 1.5 million, and if you get like half of that through the checker trade, or well, at least it's just the EFL trophy this year. But I'm gonna see if I can find it actually.
It's still the JPT in my head. It will never not be.
Yeah, it was like the money. Yeah, it was last season's £1 million windfall that they got. They got something like, so they won all of their group games, which meant that they won 60k. They then won round 2 and 3, which saw them go up to 140, and then I think if they won it, or if they won it, they'd have got another 200k for the quarters and all of that. So they were suddenly at like 300,000, 350,000. And then it was game selected for TV, which they get like another 20k, and then like ticket income and all of that. It's ridiculous. It's suddenly, if you get into the sort of quarter or semi-finals of it, you've made a lot of money.
Yeah, especially for a club like kind of our size, it's a lot of money comparatively,
Yeah. Right. Anyway, Joel, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
No, that's all right. And we don't play until early January, and then you are our penultimate fixture. So,
tasty, a big playoff clash to come then, eh?
You know what? If it is, we'll meet up in the pub before, and I'll buy you a pint. Okay.
Sure, sounds good.
You can buy me one. That's the deal.
Sounds good, mate.
Thank you very much for coming on, and no doubt we'll chat later in the season. Maybe even try and get you on, because it will be January by that point. So we'll be able to do like a bit of an analysis of how you're getting on.
Nice one. Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, mate.